We are live. Hello. We're early on
Hey,
Friday.
yes.
And I have a hard
Um,
stop in 15 minutes, so, like, we'll see how far we can blow that over.
it should be a quick one. I think we talked a little bit before about it.
Oh, yeah, this is a
But hot
totally
take and yeah.
non-controversial topic of software
Yes.
engineering is apparently dead in 6 to 12 months. For folks who don't get the reference, one of the major AI
It's
model
one of
vendors.
them. The one of them you actually use the name of, there's only one that you don't use the name of.
I try not to call out Anthropic, but
Mm,
Anthropic CEO made a pretty bold statement along with the release of Claude Opus, I think it's 4.6,
point
that
6. Yeah.
software engineering is going to be dead in 6 to 12 months.
Mm.
And the other company that I don't mention has made these claims quite a bit. Google has made claims about efficiencies. I can't recall seeing anything drastic.
Yeah, I don't think they
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 seem
tend to
to be
be
under
us.
the
Yeah,
PR radar at the
yeah.
minimum. So
I
maybe they
I
think
agree.
this, but they
I agree.
haven't publicly stated it. The other, like, bigger, I'm thinking like DeepSeek and Moonshot and some
Moonshot,
of the
Killing. Yep.
Minstrel.
Yep.
I don't again
They don't
recall
really
any massively bold claims out of them. Correct us if we're wrong in the comments, but there's two companies that really seem to be pushing that narrative pretty
it's
hard.
yeah.
So what's your take on that? Because I want to make a couple points and I need some data first.
Yeah, yeah. I'm a software engineer, right? So like this kind of I'm a senior or staff, whatever
You
level you want
play
to
one
call it,
on
depending on
TV.
the. I think the funny meme here is like and this is relevant too because there's a Simpsons meme where it's like the Ralph Wiggum and he says I'm in trouble kind of thing.
Oh,
Especially
100%.
given that Ralph Wiggum or Wigguming is something that AI agents are doing. For those who aren't familiar, just look up Ralph Wiggum agents. But I don't think software engineering is dead. I think maybe I'm a little biased, but I think there's more to software engineering than just doing the code and writing things and architecting things out. We've talked many times before about at least in organizations, you're really looking to train talent in the next generation. So getting things to do stuff isn't good enough anymore. Even though we talked a few weeks ago about people building their custom solutions because you just can now. I think there's a pattern that I see a lot where you have something that goes centralized. So if you look at the history of computing in general, part of it was because of
Yeah.
resources or access to resources, but companies had their own mainframes that had their own servers, and everything was constrained to that server so that they can be more efficient when you're having a lot of people work on something. And then came the internet of cloud, or came the era of cloud, and everyone started pushing things out to the cloud, and everything's distributed. You start centralized, you go distributed, and now people are trying to re-centralize with privacy concerns or just optimizing workflows and stuff like that. So you want to make sure everything has the right context. You're trying to tighten the context. I think that's just a natural cycle of software and how things work in general. And we're seeing that now. I think with software, there was a time where a lot of these software platforms like
Yeah.
Salesforce or Slack start providing these generalized functions that many companies use, and then people pay for it. And that makes sense because it makes sense. No one wants to build their own Slack client. No one wants to build their own chat thing. No one wants to build their own CRM.
Right.
But now people can use AI agents to build something very specific for their exact workflow. And that's fair, but I don't think that many people understand like the sort of the externalities of software engineering. When you build something, you got to maintain it, right? And this
Yeah.
is one of the things that a lot of software engineers hate is once you build something, you don't want to fix it up all the time. It's again this build versus buy. It comes to the build versus buy too. If you're ever in a tech organization, do you build something internally or do you buy it? The build costs have gone lower because of AI, but at the same time, there's this sort of tangential cost of maintaining and owning software, which you don't want to own. So ultimately, I still think there's opportunity for software engineers to build products that people want to outsource because they don't want to own
Yeah.
that kind of stuff. But that's my gut take. It was a brain dump of a lot of stuff that I thought about as I've been hearing this news. But yeah, what do you think?
Yeah.
What's your opinion on this as a
Yeah.
PM, as someone who's close to the space but not quite in
Yeah. I can't wait to work with only robots instead of humans at the bar.
it? To be
Um,
honest, I don't know if you're sarcastic or not.
yeah, so I pulled up Anthropic's job postings as you were talking. And right now, February 6th, 2:51 PM Pacific time. They have 59 open roles for AI and research category. They have 23 open roles for engineering and design product. It looks like overall they have well over a couple hundred roles open. OpenAI has 500 and some roles open. I think it's 591. It's hard to understand how they organize their roles because there's 80 categories, but it looked like there was maybe not as many engineering roles open, but they're still obviously hiring. And I guess I'll critique the comment because it pisses me off. One, nobody can predict the future. I don't care.
Mm,
You can't. Anytime you wanna we've done predictions, like, we talk about what might happen. You could talk about potentiality, you could talk about probabilities, you can give evidence based on that, and you can be relatively accurate in some instances. But when it comes to, like, employment, career trends, economy, like, every
mm,
technological progress we've always had some, like, doomer and gloomer, right? And the reality is, when the printing press was invented, nobody had any idea what the
right.
world now looks like. When movable type was invented, nobody foresaw the massive revolution, right? So the printing press used to be a giant slab that you would carve and then you would press one page at a time. Movable type was invented, and that's what we all think of as the printing press, but it was like 50 or 100 years for that to come out.
Mm,
When scrolls were the big deal before books, bound books, where page numbers took like 500 years to develop, right? And so we look back on that and say that's obvious, but
yeah,
nobody was thinking about better ways to use this stuff. And then now that you have page numbers, the monk or the scholar in charge of the book or the scroll doesn't need to know it all inside and out and be a reference. And now anyone can say, hey, here's an interesting thing that I think you should look at. Or
mhm,
you could start to compile synopses of knowledge and then propagate that knowledge. And then we had positions like librarians and scribes and all these new types of positions opened up. So radio came out, the book is dead. Books are still here. Yeah, they're less popular, and digital books are popular, but we've gone from having a book to like a blog,
mm,
right? And so I would say people are writing probably far more than we ever have written in history. And I would say people are probably consuming far more written information than ever. Even social media has written form for some of it. Might not
mm,
be true and it might rot your brain. So you can't predict the future. I don't really care. I don't really have a lot of problems with Anthropic. I think they on average do a great job. I was very surprised at such a
the
bold
dramatic.
comment
Yeah,
with such a bold timeline. Like
yeah,
5 years into the future stuff is okay, fine. We know no one knows what's going to happen 5 years from now. 6 to 12 months is more on the horizon of that has financial ramifications for the market. If he's not right, then there's gonna be some really weird stuff that's going on. If he is right, then we're in a total paradigm change.
yeah. He's made these kinds of statements before. If
Yeah.
you look back at the projections of how technologists were looking at AI, even a year ago, I think he was on the aggressive side in terms of the coming of AGI.
Mhm.
And so I wouldn't put it past them to make the same kinds of claims, but the
Yeah.
6 to 12 months, I agree with you. We made the comment before, even in our sort of prediction episode, it's very, very hard to predict what technology looks like.
Yeah.
And part of you wonders, or part of me wonders, is AI is so big right now, you have to stay in the spotlight. And
Oh,
one of those
100%.
ways is to do these sort of outlandish claims and again just bring attention to your work or your industry
Yeah.
because that is valuable.
Yeah, I would say that some of the other companies are raising money, and that's been very effective for them. I would also say that in the last few days, the stock market has corrected a little bit for a lot of SaaS companies. I know it's up a little bit today, but I think there's a general wisdom now that, like, we're probably oversold, we're probably overprescribed, we've pushed the knowledge maybe a little too far and
Yeah.
pushed the hype, And so the question I think is not like how far are we over, it's to what extent are we over?
Yeah.
And people are starting to wise up, and then people are using the stuff and they're not like seeing the massive benefit. And we've talked a little bit about this too. And the stuff's super capable. It's right now, I think the biggest limitation to AI adoption is people are having a hard time figuring it out.
Yeah.
I think point two I have is fame and notoriety seems to be kind of the hype train,
Currency.
right?
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
And so, yes, to some extent, he's the CEO and he has to hype his product and his company, and I 100% get that as a product person. That's also something you have to do,
Mhm.
but it feels a little desperate to me that you're
Okay.
making a
Yeah.
6 to 12-month claim that's very bold, and then the proof that they put out was they had Claude build a compiler or something, and that's a hard thing
Yeah.
to do. And I was talking to somebody about this, and I made the point of, like, when I was in computer science school back in the day, compilers were, like, really hard, and you might be, like, a PhD or, like, a master's student and write a compiler for a project, and it's usually pretty low feature, works. There's always more shit to put into a
Yeah. Yeah.
compiler and better ways to do it and make it more optimized, et cetera, et cetera. It's a really, really, really hard problem. But, like, 10 years, 20 years before that, like, you had teams of hundreds or thousands of people trying to make a compiler work, right?
Mhm.
And so in 10 to 20 years, it went from IBM charging hundreds of thousands of dollars for a compiler to this is something that somebody could do this is a thing that something this is a thing somebody could do in a relatively short amount of time by themselves.
Yeah.
And now I think that and I haven't been close to the space for a while, so maybe it's super trivial now too, but I feel like it's not that impressive. Yes, it's impressive that it's a hard thing and that I don't know the details. I'm really looking forward to the folks who, like, do this for a living to really dive into it and be like, "Yeah, this is cool and it's a great thing," or, "Yeah, the claims are really, really overblown." Because I think the thing with compilers that's hard for folks is, like, the chains of reasoning and logic have
Where you
sometimes
need
very
to right.
unexpected consequences, and I have a lot of questions about how they actually did this. And this kinda leads into my 3rd point a little bit, but I am also they said it ran for I think it was 2 months. And so,
I know it
like
was an extended period of time. I didn't realize it was 2 months that long, but yeah.
yeah, I'm going
Yeah.
from memory, don't quote me on this, but
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
I was pretty sure it was like 2 weeks or 2 months. 2 stands out in my mind, and I'm starting to ask the question of, like, how much of the advancement or the capability of the models is just giving it more resources, and how much of it is we've actually made another breakthrough in AI.
Yeah, I think that was one of the discussions early on was people were trying to project, have we hit the limit of just give it more compute, just give it more compute,
Right.
and eventually get there. I think there's still some research being done on this theoretically, is have we hit limitations on the
Yeah,
way that we're currently building these models and just more compute won't do it. But it's I hadn't thought of it that way. It's a good practical example to think about is
yeah,
yeah, given many more months, what else could it do? The one point I do want to touch upon is I think it does go back to some of the stuff we've talked about before is why are you building these kinds of things, right? Building compilers, to
yep,
your point, when you're in grad school, you built a compiler, but the whole point of it was to learn how the compiler works. And that was something for
right,
you. Just building a compiler nowadays, if you just want to build a compiler, you can, but why?
yeah. And that's the thing too, and I think I put this up on some social platform where I said effectively, like, building something that already exists is cool, and that's I don't wanna try to minimize the accomplishment, but at the same time, like, nothing novel is easy,
Mm,
period, and using an AI to build a website is trivial now, like, websites
mhm.
are pretty solved. I think we've had 30 some years of, like, website design and build, and, like, yeah, you can do all sorts of crazy shit, but if you want, like, a website to convey information and have some kind of components and functionality, then it's already solved. Uh, Point 3, I think, is a little bit more of a meta point, but, when you look at what are the advancements that these announcements have made over time, we are not seeing massive changes anymore.
Mm,
So when Gemini 1.5 Pro came out, it was massive leap forward. Gemini 2.5, I
yeah,
think it was, came out, that was a massive leap forward. Gemini
yeah,
3, massive leap forward. Same with Claude, right? Claude, I don't remember all the numbers, but it was like Claude, and then it was like Claude 2, and then it was Claude 3. Now it's Claude 4, 4.1, 4.2. I think now we're up to
4.6,
was 4.5 was the
4.6.
last one, 4.6. But even
Yeah,
the incremental versioning of the numbers of the key in software versioning, you typically do a point release as like a minor improvement or some maybe a new feature or something, but like a massive like
major
number
version
change
change.
typically
Yeah,
is a massive improvement or a suite of features. And so they're even acknowledging that in their marketing that like, yes, this is like a new thing and it's better, but it's not, it's incrementally. We went from
mm,
4.5 to 4.6 better.
yeah,
And I think that is for me telling. And so instead of hyping the product and the capability, they're making crazy claims to generate PR and buzz. And to some extent
mm,
they have. They've generated it. And it is a
yeah,
better
yeah,
model, right? The benchmarks are out. I haven't used it a ton since it's out. Like I don't bottle jump. Like I'll try them out eventually. It's like on my list of things to do, and I'm sure it's better, right? But
yeah.
it's also way more expensive,
It eats up way more tokens.
which again makes me think that they're just giving it more memory in the background, or you're getting longer
Yeah,
compute
I see.
cycles or something, and it's more of an infrastructure software engineering development and not necessarily like an AI model improvement. And maybe I'm sure there's some
Yeah.
model improvement in there too.
I will again. I'm speaking for myself here.
Yeah.
I am impressed with the pace at which these models have gotten, even just from Opus 4.5 to 4.6.
Yeah.
I've seen quite significant improvements. I'm working on a long-standing thing, and then even the other
Yeah.
day when I was working with Opus 4.5, it had trouble doing something. Now it seems like it's hitting everything that I'm asking it to do. So
Yep.
there is like a yes, this is improving. But to your point, yes, are they just dumping more resources into it?
Yeah,
And
and
will
fine,
we get to that point? Yeah.
right? It's getting better. I'm not trying to poo-poo it, so to speak, or negate the development or advancement, but when you're ma when you're I don't know how long it's been what, 4 or 5 months? Your advancement
Mm,
is a point increment release, and it's, like, slightly better, and then you come out and make a claim that 6 to 12 months from now, software engineering is dead.
yeah. Yeah.
That put up or shut up, or so to speak. It's listen to what people say, but watch what they do.
Mm,
And I don't see it. And I think again, the general consensus within the field is like within the year, we'll probably see some pretty astonishing software stuff. But I was
mm,
thinking about this a little bit, and I think it's just because software, a lot of the day-to-day software stuff that we do is solved. Web servers are solved, email servers are solved. A
mm,
lot of the protocol stuff is solved, like scaling compute is solved to an extent. Most
yeah.
people, most companies never hit the extent where you're actually needing to solve higher scale problems. To like how much of this is we're just able to replicate this stuff now because we've had 30 years of web development
Mm,
and another probably 30 or 40 years of software development on top of it. We've been doing this for almost a generation. What
right.
technology? Look at a car, right? A car from a Model T to a Porsche or something is like not even comparable today. We're racing Indy cars at 300 miles an hour for 12 hours straight and shit. I don't know anything about racing,
Yeah.
but the amount of machine engineering to run an engine that's literally exploding
Yeah.
constantly and running parts that are going many thousands of revolutions a minute at any sort of duration is impressive.
Mhm.
Where's my flying car, so to speak? I know there's some
Yeah,
companies
yeah.
doing it, but again, it was the claim in the '50s, we're all gonna have a nuclear powered car and it's gonna be flying in 10 years. I'm still waiting for that. And
Right.
point 3a or maybe point 4 on this is that you eventually hit scaling laws. And I think we're starting to
Mhm.
see that with this generation of transformers, with this generation of architecture. There's a lot of impressive work happening, and we're starting to see those advancements pushing it forward, but instead of these, like, massive leaps, we're getting incremental improvements, or we're getting practical application improvements. So something like anti-gravity,
Yeah.
Claude
Yeah.
Code, the ecosystem of how to use the models is improving vastly, and that's creating a much higher gain of function than,
Yeah.
like, making a better model. And maybe we don't need to train a smarter model. Maybe that is, but that's not nearly as sexy as saying, "Ah, it's gonna solve all human problems in 6 to 12 months."
Well, I know we're pressing up on time. You got to go, but
Yeah,
that could be one way to think about this: is the idea of software engineering being dead or done within the next few months. Maybe
yeah,
that's the angle they're taking: is the fundamental research or the fundamental science behind it, the engineering that needs to be done on these is done. And we called this out a while back of
yeah,
the application layer being the highest or the lowest hanging fruit for seeing a lot of the benefits from these models, right? So many companies are shifting towards this. Okay, now we have the foundation, but what can you do with it? And this is
yeah,
where a lot of the other innovative technologies like virtual reality or blockchain has faltered. They never
yeah.
found that application layer.
Or it's just like it solved a really big problem that people that didn't have as big of depth
It's
or
wide of an
breadth,
applicability. Yeah, yeah,
right?
right,
And
right.
to make like a couple weeks ago, we talked about this too, how software engineering was actually changing, and I do believe that in 6 to 12 months, software engineering is going to look radically different than it does today. I don't think they're going away. I'll get in on the hype, I guess. 6 to 12 months from now, my prediction is that folks who know what they're doing are going to be able to do far more and far f and move much faster than they
Mm,
could today, that will eventually find some sort of human limit of, like, the AI is only as good as I my ability to explain the problem or soak in the context, and then
yeah,
we'll hit
yeah,
another limit. Junior people or people learning the software, you're gonna have 2 branches. You're gonna have, like, the AI jockeys who will be like the modern test engineer equivalent.
right,
No, I'm
right.
not trying to shit on QA people, but that's a totally different skill set than, like, writing software, being able to test software. And so I think, like, you'll have your AI coder, maintainer, producty, feature implementer people, but you're still gonna have the senior engineers, the principal engineers who are building the really hard stuff or making sure the whole thing works. People learning from scratch are I don't know what that's gonna look like. And to some extent, it's like math, like, you the calculator really helps, and if you know how to
Mhm.
use the tool, it helps. But when it comes to, like, how does math look? People are still doing equations. Yeah, they're using computers and stuff to, like, but they're still coming up with the idea,
Yes, yeah.
translating it into the computer and running. So I don't think it's gonna radically change that much. I think the average person will become a really shitty software engineer or have the capability to be a really shitty
Yeah, good. Have the capability. Yes.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And we've talked about this too. It's like I do the I there's the podcast app was a YOLO attempt. I was working on some bug fixes today and adding a couple features, and it went way faster than I thought it would. So I'm still having to do architect work, but the way to ground the AI and prevent overriding changes
Going
and that
off
kind
it.
of
Yeah, yeah.
stuff,
Mhm.
that'll get a lot better. Product teams aren't dead. You still have to have taste. You still have to have judgment. That's not gonna change. But I do think we're gonna see it's gonna be a lot faster to see how your judgment is. You know?
Interesting. It'll be a lot faster
The
to see how you're judging. Okay.
yeah, the scale condenses. So instead of s having an idea, raising money, building a startup, like,
Oh, got it.
you
Got
can
it. Yes.
get the marketing out there. If the marketing hits, then you can get a product out in a few days. You don't need a
Yeah.
team. You don't need 3 to 6 months of startup time to go. Scaling, I think, will still be hard, and it'll be really interesting to see how software in 6 to 12 months, software engineering is gonna be a lot of people who are experienced coming into companies who have a vibe coded product. They're having all sorts of problems trying to make the damn thing work
That'll be
at
interesting.
scale.
Yes. Yeah. That'll be
Yeah,
interesting for sure.
yeah,
But though that's where the software engineering comes in, right?
100%. Yeah. So, yeah, I don't know if that's not much prediction, but that's my commentary. I don't think it's in 6 to 12 months, software engineering is not dead, but it is radically different. And I think a lot of companies and a lot of teams are gonna need less software engineers,
Mhm.
but you're gonna need better, more experienced,
Yes.
more capable, more creative software engineers than what you
Right.
probably have today. And a lot of people who
Yeah.
are just getting by or, like, not very good I think it's gonna be obvious. I
Yeah.
don't
Yeah.
think they're just
Yeah.
gonna be unemployed tomorrow, but you might have different roles, might have different jobs.
Yeah. And we touched upon it before. Then it's then how do those people? What do you do with those people, or do
Those
they
people
upskill?
still have deep experience with your company and deep experience with your product, so, everyone always says layoffs. Maybe, maybe not, but we've talked about the edge engineer, the pre-sales
Hmm.
types roles,
Yeah. Yeah.
again, being able to go into companies and show the value in articulate ways and talk about, like, complex integrations. Like, AI can probably figure it out, but you're gonna spend way more time describing the problem to AI than sitting down with another couple people who have some
Yeah.
context and figuring it out. And AI will probably help you do that faster or
Yes. Yeah.
more better, get more detail out, but that doesn't change in 6 to 12 months unless, like, maybe we have some massively revolutionary breakthrough, which isn't gonna happen. I'll make
It
that
learns how to
claim,
read your mind. It learns how to
right?
read your mind.
Yeah, like, yeah, and if it does, it's gonna be so expensive that no one is gonna really be able to use it, and it does then at that point, like, if you make such a great breakthrough that only a handful of people can actually interact with it, it's not really a breakthrough.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know, any other final thoughts on this wonderful Friday afternoon?
Technology is a tool, and with anything, the tool is only as useful as the tool wielder. And so, you give
Yeah,
me the fanciest chef knives, and I'm not going to be the best chef in the world. So, I think that's one way to think about this is AI is great. AI is a
uh,
good tool, but if you don't know how to use it, then
the chef's knives might make you, like, 10% more better.
it
It might
also
make you faster.
increases for me stabbing myself.
Yeah, but and we talked a little bit about this, I think it was last week with the art tool. Like, a lot of people getting into art wanna get
Yeah,
the best
yeah, yeah,
paint and the best
yeah, yeah.
brushes, and
Right, exactly. Yeah,
that can help make it better.
yeah,
But what makes those tools better or why those tools were developed was because people were hitting limitations of the craft.
right.
And you don't typically get a benefit from using the better paint and the better brushes out the gate before you learn how to use them properly. AI is a little different, like, I think you do get further
The bar
faster,
to get there. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I agree with
but
you.
with creativity, judgment, critical thinking, those are all learned skills that AI can assist you in learning through a process, but if you're just depending on it to do it for you, you're gonna be like everyone else who uses AI to make judgments for them, to do critical thinking for them, to be creative, in quotes, because AI is not creative. I'll die on that hill. At least not yet. If it is, I'll be the first to interview AI on the podcast, and we'll
Yeah.
talk about the creative process that AI has taken. Until that happens,
Awesome.
I'm dying on the hill.
What a way to end. All right.
Happy Friday.
Have a nice weekend.
Bye.